Hello, welcome to Crafting in the Night. In today's video tutorial, I'm going to show you how to work up my quick and easy modern granny blanket. This 4-row repeat is super easy. This is a very beginner friendly pattern. You only need to know how to do double crochet stitches. The way that this is worked up, in this colorway, I used 4 colors of blue and then a contrasting color of white. But you could use any color palette you like. I've also worked this up in a variety of pinks for a little girl, and I just finished working this in fall colors as well. This is a great project, especially if you have scrappy yarns to use up. You could do every row in a different color. In fact, you could even do every contrasting row in a different color if you like. That's enough of that. Let's get started. For this tutorial, I've assembled some colored yarn to work with. I'll use these 2 colors primarily as they are going to be the easiest to show up on camera. I've also chosen a hook that will fit these yarns. This is a J 6.0 millimeter hook and a pair of scissors. You'll also need a yarn needle to weave in your ends. Now keep in mind that typically I would add white on the accent color row with these yarns, or you could do black or gray or what have you, but white doesn't show up well for video tutorials. But for this pattern, you can use every row a different color. You can use 3 colors, 4 colors, 5 colors. It's completely up to you. Let's get started. I'll get started with this terracotta color. Again, in the samples that I show, this would have been white, but terracotta is going to show up better on camera. I'll start with the slip knot and then chain a multiple of 3 until the project is the width that you would like it to be. So I'm going to chain 15, 2, 3, 13, 14, 15. And now when your chain is the length that you would like it to be, you're going to chain 2. Now you'll double crochet into the 3rd chain on the hook. The yarn on your hook does not count, so go back 1, 2, and double crochet into this chain here. And I'll typically double crochet into the front. If you prefer, you could double crochet into the back loop. So I'll go ahead and get this set up, and I'll meet you back when I'm at the last chain. I do want to mention that this foundation row should be the color of your border. At least that's how I would work the project. So if you were going to work the border in one of your contrasting colors, then you would go ahead and set this initial double crochet row to that, and then you would start off this next row without changing colors. In my case, this is meant to represent my contrasting color, and so I'm going to go ahead and skip straight into switching colors on this last chain. So in order to change colors, I'll yarn over, insert my hook into the last chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and now to change color, I'll grab my new color. With my new color, I'll hold a long enough tail to weave in later behind my yarn, yarn over, and pull through with that new color. Pull this first color tight, and now I'm ready to cut off this end to weave in later. Now we'll continue with the new color by chaining 3. Turn the work, skip 2, and place a granny cluster into the next chain. A granny cluster, anytime you hear me say that, is going to be 3 double crochets all into the same stitch. So we'll go ahead and place 3 double crochets into that stitch. Skip 2. You can see here, skip 1, 2, 3 double crochets into the next. Skip 2, 1, 2, 3 double crochets into the next. When you get to the end, you'll have 3 stitches remaining. 1, 2, 3. You'll chain 1 and then double crochet into the top of the last stitch. Now we'll chain 3 and turn our work, and we'll work 2 double crochets into this space here. And then we'll work granny clusters or 3 double crochets into the space all the way down the rest of the project. I'll continue working this all the way down, and I'll meet you back for the last one to show you how to start the next row. When you hit the end of the row, you'll place 3 granny clusters in the space between the last granny cluster from the row below and the chain 3. And now I'll chain 3 and turn. Now you could chain 3 or chain 4. It really depends on your tension and the yarn that you're using. You want to make sure that you can get over into the next space between granny clusters without causing too much tension on that chain. So I'm going to chain 3 because I'm crocheting this project a little loosely. But that really just depends. If you have a tighter tension, you could chain 4. So I've worked a granny cluster into that space. I'll continue working a granny cluster all the way down, and I'll meet you back when I get to the end. So I'm here at the end. You want to chain 1 and then place a double crochet into the top of your chain 3. So you can kind of see the top of your stitches here. You have a double crochet, and then your chain 3. So here's the top of your double crochet, the top of your next double crochet. So we want to work into the top of this stitch here. I'll yarn over, insert my hook, and I like to have 2 of those loops of that stitch. You can kind of see them here on my hook, and go ahead, yarn over, pull through 2, and now we want to change back to our main color. So I'm not going to complete the double crochet here. I'm going to grab my, sorry, not the main color, the accent color. Again, place it behind my work with a long enough tail to weave in, and then yarn over, pull through, and I want to chain 3. Now I can go ahead and tighten down this color and cut it off, leaving enough yarn to weave in my ends. Chain 3, turn, and now what we're going to do is work a double crochet into the space here, then work a double crochet into the top of the next 2 stitches. Now we want to make sure that these are the stitches that are on top of the granny cluster. So we can see here 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, 3 double crochet. We want to work our double crochets into the top of the next 2 stitches here. So I'll go ahead and work double crochet into the first one, double crochet into the second one, and now we're not going to work a double crochet into the top of the third one. Instead, we're going to work our double crochet into the space, and that'll give this kind of very slight dropped stitch effect. Go ahead and continue on the next one, double crochet into the top of the next 2, and then again double crochet into the space. Let's go ahead and continue working down, double crochet into the next 2, double crochet into the space, double crochet into the next 2, double crochet into the space, and now we need to still double crochet into the top here of the stitch. So I just kind of look to see, but you can pull your yarn over, and just whatever the top of the next available stitch is, you're going to want to double crochet into that. You're also changing color at this stage, so you're going to yarn over and insert your hook into that stitch. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through 2. And then I'm going to grab my next color. In this case, I'm going to switch to navy. Again, leaving a tail behind. Yarn over, pull through with your new color. And chain 3. Now I'm going to cut off this orange with a long enough tail to weave in later. I can kind of tighten that down. Turn my work. And now we're going to repeat these 3 rows, but instead with the navy color. So once again, we're going to skip 2 and place a granny cluster into the 3rd stitch. So skip 1, 2, granny cluster into the 3rd stitch. Skip 2, granny cluster into the 3rd stitch. Now one thing you'll notice is it's always a granny cluster right after the drop stitch. So instead of counting, you can just kind of eyeball your stitches. Each time you're going to place a granny cluster is immediately following that dropped stitch. So here's my drop stitch, and my granny cluster is going to go into the stitch next to it. And then from here, it's pretty easy. You're going to just go ahead and work all the way down. And you're going to repeat the 3 granny cluster rows with the double crochet row until your project is the length that you want it to be. So here we go. Now in the last end of this row, we're not going to place a granny cluster here. We're going to chain 1 and double crochet not into the top of this dropped stitch, but in the stitch next to it. So we can see the top of the drop stitch here. We'll double crochet into the stitch next to it. Chain 3, turn your work, and then perform the repeat. Okay, I'll meet you back when I'm ready to change back to the main color again, just so that we can work that one more time. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe and give this video a like. If you interact in the comments, that does help my YouTube channel grow as well, so I would greatly appreciate it. Okay, I'm here at the end again. I'm going to go ahead and work my last stitch into the top of that chain 3. And because I'm changing color again back to my contrasting color, I'm not going to complete the stitch. Instead, I'm going to bring the next color in, chain 3, and again work your next double crochet into the space. Work a double crochet into the top of the next 2 stitches. And then work the next double crochet into the gap. And that's how you will work up this project. It is double-sided because we are switching sides and turning our work every row, and you'll just continue working the pattern like that. Depending on how you want to lay out your colors, you could have like my examples and have the contrasting color be the same and then change up the rows in between, or you could have every single row be a different color yarn if you're working a scrap GAN. It's really up to you, and I've done combinations where I've done 4 colors in between, so 4 colors plus white. You could do 3 colors plus white, or you could even run a variegated color in the middles and then a contrasting color. It's completely up to you. The sky's the limit. I hope you liked this tutorial. Be sure to drop a comment below and feel free to ask me any questions. I want to show you really quickly how I would add a border to this. Just kind of like a foundation edge, and then you could add any border that you like. I would always end in the row with the double crochets. So if you're going to do the border in your contrasting color, go ahead and switch to your contrasting color, and then we'll work the border all the way around like I will do in this tutorial. However, if I was going to do the border in, for example, navy, I would work this double crochet row in the navy and not change, and then continue working the border. Okay, so once you work across, when you start that last row, you're going to get to the corner. Now, normally we're going to place a double crochet into the gap and a double crochet into the top of the chain 3 here. Instead of doing that, you're going to go ahead and work 3 double crochets into the corner. So 1, 2, 3. Chain 1, turn your work, and then work 3 more double crochets. 1, 2, 3. Now along the side, the goal here is to place stitches evenly. And what I have found is if you place 2 stitches into a granny cluster and 2 stitches into a chain 3 space, that seems to work out. So what I'll do is I kind of think of these granny clusters as top rows and bottom rows. So top and bottom, I'll place 1 double crochet kind of into the top section, 1 double crochet into the bottom section, 2 double crochets into the chain 3 space, here I'm just going to pull these tight. Normally you would have weaved in your ends already, so these shouldn't be coming loose. And again, this is a double crochet row, right? So it's not a granny cluster, but it's still double crochet. So I'm going to put a double crochet into the top section, double crochet into the bottom section, and there's just a nice gap there, so I'll put it in there. Here's a chain 3 space, so I'll work 2 double crochets in there. Again, here you can kind of see on this double crochet, you can see this bar in here. So that's space above is the top section. Space below this little bar is the bottom section. So top, bottom, 2 into the space. And again, had I weave these ends in, this wouldn't be as loose as it is. Just going to pull that tight. Okay. And now we've reached the bottom, and the bottom is a double crochet, but instead of placing 2 double crochets, 1 in the top, 1 in the bottom, I'm going to place 3 in here. So 1, 2, 3. If you weave in your tails, you won't have those problems. Chain 1, get that out of there, turn, and then 3 more back into that same space. So 1, 2, 3. Now along this bottom edge, if you had worked foundation double crochet, you would have a little bit of an easier time, but you can see these bumps to work into, and that's exactly what I would do. I would work right into those bumps and just place 1 double crochet all the way across. As we get to the corner, we're going to look for a spot to put our 3 double crochet, chain 1, 3 double crochet. So I'm going to go into this spot here, go into the next one, and now we have this nice space between our first chain 3 and double crochet to work 3 double crochets, chain 1, turn, 3 double crochets. Now I'll work my 3 double crochets across the entirety of this stitch, and it'll kind of push that down, right? So you'll go 2, do you see how it's closing that gap up? 3, and now we'll go ahead and do 2 into the chain 3 space and work our tops and bottoms on these granny clusters. So actually this is a chain 3 where we did a chain 3 and turn, so I'm just going to work 2 into that spot. Again, the whole goal here is just to space them evenly so that your border doesn't ruffle. If your border starts to ruffle, then you're putting too many stitches in and you want to put fewer stitches. If your project starts to curl, you're putting too few in and you'll want to add more stitches. So that can vary depending on your tension as well. So when we get back up here to where we started, we didn't do that 3 double crochet, chain 1, 3 double crochet. But we did do a chain 1, which counts as a double crochet. So I've just placed 2 double crochets into this spot. I'll place a 3rd double crochet, chain 1, turn, and there's 2 double crochets, sorry, not 1 double crochet. So this one counts as 1, this one counts as 1. So I'll put 1 more double crochet, and then I'll slip stitch to the top of that starting chain 3. I'll cut a long tail and finish off. Now, if you were going to continue with your same border color, you could, but this just adds a nice border all the way around your project. And it gives you a base to work any other type of border. Now, in my fall colored blanket, which I have here, I did a ribbed front post, back post ribbed border. And you can see what I'm talking about here. I worked the green color and then I worked my, it's really hard to see, but I worked my drop stitch row. So I have my green color here, and then I have my drop stitch row here in the same color, which started the border, instead of using my contrasting color, which was a cream kind of off-white here. So in this border, I worked a front post, back post, double crochet, but you could put, now at this stage, you have nice even stitching all the way around, so you could put any border that you like. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I'll post a link in the description as well as a pinned comment to the blog post for this pattern. If you visit that and sign up for the newsletter, you can get a free coloring page. It's just a black and white coloring sheet that will help you plan out colors for this project, as well as some color palette ideas just in case you're not sure what colors to put together. If you do make something using this pattern, and this pattern can be used for blankets, scarves, really anything that you like, and if you do make something using this pattern, I'd love if you share it with me. I'm on Facebook and Instagram and also here on YouTube. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe so that you can get notified when I post new patterns. In the meantime, I'm going to pop up a link to my Cooper blanket. Please check that out. It's another great granny stitch type blanket. This one uses mitered granny squares to create a really unique blanket pattern that's a great progression to step up from this pattern to working that one. I hope you enjoy.